Welcome, everyone, to this latest edition of Wallet Talks podcast, where we are having conversations about money so that it's more normalized and so we can make better decisions with our money. I'm joined by two beautiful ladies, one being my wife here. She's a co-host, Tiffany Alexander.
Hello.
And Kenita Smith.
Yes. And Kenita Smith is the founder of our Metro Atlanta nonprofit that we've been partnering with over the past year and a half, where we help provide financial coaching to its participants. And HOPE is an acronym for helping other people be empowered. We were introduced to Kenita and HOPE through a church member at an event that we were being a vendor. And so we're glad to have her on this call, and we're glad to have her on this podcast. And we invite you to listen in more as you learn about this organization that helps single working parents successfully pursue and obtain an education.
Yeah. So welcome, Kenita.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Yes. It's been almost 2 years we've been working together, right?
Yeah. In 2 years that we've been working together.
I can't believe that.
It seems longer, though.
Yeah. I mean, we have your participants. We have up to 20 or something like that you have helped. Or, well, as let's get into what is HOPE all about. Like, how many participants you have? How many have you helped? Just get into that for us a little bit.
And also, what kind of led you to actually form HOPE?
Okay. So, as Tiffany said, HOPE stands for helping other people be empowered. And it's really just based off of my own personal life story. I was a single parent in college. I had my first son at the age of 21, a sophomore in college at Clark Atlanta. And originally I wanted to become a doctor. My goal was to major in biology and be a pediatrician. When I learned I was pregnant, I realized, okay, me and residency and being a single parent may not be the best look. So I thought, what's the next best career? And I figured that would be nurse practitioner. So I got into the Georgia State nursing program first try. And the Georgia State nursing program is a 3-year BSN program, very rigorous. They don't care if you have childcare. They don't care if you can pay your bills. They don't want you to work more than 20 hours a week. And I had gotten through pretty much to my junior year after having my son. But I realized really quickly that there was not a lot of assistance for single parents that work and go to school. In fact, when I tried to get CAPS assistance from the government, I was denied because I was told I was going to a 4-year college. But if I was going to receive a diploma or a certificate, I would get the child care assistance I needed. So long story short, I ended up not finishing that nursing degree. I got all the way up to my junior year, found out I was pregnant with my second son. And the professors asked me to pretty much sit out a semester. But at that time, I was living in based on income housing in downtown Atlanta that was not safe. That was all I could afford and keep my children with me. And I just needed to get out. I was like, I had 1 year left. I just need to get done with school. And I refused to sit out. But after I had my son, I ended up having a setback because I went right into clinicals, right back to school, didn't give myself enough time for my body to heal. So I had to sit out because they don't allow you to be in the nursing program with restrictions. So I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to switch my major to business administration and concentrate in healthcare because nursing classes are good for 5 years and I can always go back and finish. So I finished my bachelor's degree in actually 10 years because I switched my major a couple of times and had to go through battling some of that setback and sickness I had. Once I did complete that bachelor's degree, I did get accepted a position at a hospice company where I was in administration, moved up fairly quickly from coordinator to office manager to assistant executive director in training, had 3 satellite offices under me and about 150 employees. Many of them were single parent women, CNAs going to school for nursing, or ASN nurses going to school for BSN nursing. So I constantly had to mentor people because they'd be asking me, how did you finish school? How did you do it? So I came up with this program one day, sitting in my office wondering, okay, what is it that I can do every day and not get paid for it? Because after I put out the fires here, I'm pretty bored, right? So I thought about it and I said, you know what? I am a giver. I've always been a giver. I have given people shoes off of my feet before. I just
Mm.
am that kind of person. So I thought of this program to help single parents, wrote it all up. Didn't know the first thing about nonprofits, starting a nonprofit, donors, or anything. But I gave the write up to a doctor friend of mine who I worked with. And I said, what do you think about this? And he said, you have to start it, and I'll give you the seed money to do the 501c3. So I learned how to fill out the paperwork. We got approved from the IRS in about 3 months from me filling out that paperwork, and the rest is history. I took a couple of years to get the infrastructure together, and that was 2009, and we're 12 years later now. So fast
Wow.
forward to now. Um, I did not have any, as I said, nonprofit experience, no donors, no grants, didn't know where the money was coming from. But what I did have was a business background and some corporate knowledge as to how to grow a business. And I just applied what I knew in corporate America to the nonprofit world, so to speak, with a few tweaks here and there. So I knew to get the infrastructure together, like I mentioned. We went from accepting 4 participants. We did a small fundraiser with friends and family, took that cash, put it back into the organization, and helped 4 participants. That grew to now, helping from 4 to we just accepted our 100th participant 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
So we've now served 12 years later, 100 participants, 227 children, and we have an 82% graduation rate within our program, currently 24 participants within our program. So it grew organically, and we grew it slowly as I learned and as I got more familiar with what it takes to build a nonprofit. So that's the nonprofit side of things, but there were things that I did notice that needed to happen when I did start the program, what I felt like single parents really needed. And that's what I felt like really empowered them. There are a lot of single parent programs out there that will have a parenting class for you every week, that will have financial training for you every week. But the bottom line is, and they may even have one-time emergency assistance, but what single parents in college really need is an ongoing financial assistance to supplement income, because they can't work enough to cover the basic needs. So even if I give you rent for 1 month, you're still going to be in the same situation next month, because you just don't make enough, period, to make ends meet with a market value rent. Dorms, even for single parents, cost more than market value rent. So the colleges aren't prepared to help the single parents. And even the child care that's on site, it's the same amount as the child care that's off site. So if you don't live on campus or near campus, why are you going to drive all the way to campus to take your child to that child care that's going to cost the same amount as the child care down the street? So it's all these dynamics that a lot of organizations may not have been able to support or thought of, that I did think of, which differentiates H.O.P.E from everyone else. So we empower our participants because we give them the financial assistance they need ongoing. We give them rent assistance up to $400 a month. We're not going to give you $125 when your rent is $1,200. So we give you $400 a month, which is, we feel, a significant amount to kind of help make a difference. We also will give childcare up to $400 a month, and it's not and or, it's if they need both, they get both. If they need one or the other, then they get one or the other. In addition to that service, we offer some outside supportive service that help them to take what we give them and make it beneficial, which is what we offer with you guys with the financial training, helping them to know how to take their budget and their spending and curve that, because most of us didn't learn that from mom and dad, because mom and dad didn't know it. So we're teaching it to us now. We also offer counseling services to them and their children, because mental health is important when it comes to academic success. So they may have gone through early divorces, and the children may have gone through those divorces. There may have been domestic violence, things of that nature that have caused them to be stifled in life as well as academically. When we do this holistic approach with the with the training, financial training and financial assistance, and also with the counseling, then that helps bridge the gap for them, and they're not needing to go to 5 and 6 different organizations to get the help they need. And then lastly, we have a social service component where, let's say they need something that is not within our core service. For example, many of our participants have come to us with vehicle problems, and we don't give them a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have partners that will give them a car, and they will give them a car without requiring any money normally. But since the pandemic, they may have to have a little down payment now.
Gotcha.
But it's still a whole car in great condition, as opposed to paying $500 or $600 a month in a car note, depending on what their credit is.
Yeah.
So we do things like that. If they need donations for school, clothes,
Mm-hmm.
or anything like that, we'll help provide the resource for them, whether it's a connection to a partner we have or donors providing that for them, so that they really can just focus on the goal, which is to graduate. And that's really what we want to see. That's our overall goal, is to increase the number of single parent graduates in our community, period.
I love that.
That's awesome.
I love that. I mean, I know we've been working together for 2 years. When I was writing down the list of things that you were providing, I was like, wait, I didn't know about that. Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah, I knew about the vehicle part and of course the housing and the childcare, because that's something we discuss in.
But that mental
with
health
our
though
meeting.
is definitely
that's
important
definitely,
too.
Exactly.
It's not as taboo as it was before to talk about. I don't know if is everybody still actively taking advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a sidebar. So wow, that is a lot that you kind of covered through there. I want to ask then, with that, all those different services that you do provide and the circumstances of the single parent going to school and work, what has been some of your challenges you face as an organization to execute on what you are trying to achieve?
Mm-hmm.
I would say initially, right, with any new nonprofit starting up, whether you know what you're doing or don't know what you're doing, the initial challenge is going to be funding. Getting the community awareness out there, making sure that people know that you're a credible and legitimate organization. So you have to build a successful track record.
Yeah.
And how do you build that track record with no funding? Mm-hmm. So you have to find creative ways to fund your program. And for me, I was not afraid to start small. So if I needed to start with 4 people, I kept it at 4 people. And as the cash grew, I grew it, and I grew the number. And I was never afraid to admit, hey, we help just 10 people a year. Mm-hmm. Because that's what we can case manage, that's what we can afford. And as we put that effort into them, our success track record grew. And that brought us credibility. Now, that's from an operation side. From a program side, you also have to show credibility with the colleges that you're wanting to partner with in our situations, with the different organizations that you want to partner with, community partners, as well as corporate partners. So we had to take that track record of 4 or 10 people and say, even though we started off small, this is how much we've grown financially, and this is how much our program has grown. And we measure their success every year annually through surveys. And this is how we measure. We had 3 objective goals that we had that we would measure. Number 1, if they would graduate within 6 years, because a student that didn't have responsibility, that wasn't a single parent, they graduated normally within 6 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our goal, to make sure that our single parents, that it didn't take them 6 to 15 years that the statistics told us it took them, that it will only take them 6 years if we brought them this help. And we've had 100% success rate with that. Awesome. So we were able to share that. The other thing we look at is their financial stability over a period of 5 years. So after they leave our program, we track them annually for 5 years to see what their income is, what their savings are. If they purchased a home, have they increased in their degree? Maybe they got a graduate degree, a master's degree. Has their credit score continued to increase from the time that they started in our program? And we track that annually for 5 years. So we were able to give actual data in addition to a story saying, hey, on average, our participants have increased their credit scores by 100% from being in our program, or they've increased their annual income by $25,000 on average from being in our program. Once we were able to show them that we had actual data, as well as a good track record with our participants going through the program and graduating, we didn't have many people dropping out. Mm-hmm. That helped solidify us with the colleges. And they start referring more students to us. So I think the challenge overall is just getting your name out and establishing the credibility from both a program side as well as the organization side. For every organization, there's always going to be funding. So you're always trying to find new funding opportunities out there and build those relationships so that that funding can come in and you can further the program. But as long as you have a good plan, strategy plan about how to do that, and you recognize what the weakness is and the strength that your organization has and in the phase that you're in, then you'll be able to accomplish it. But it's just a matter of knowing where you are in your program as well as in your operations.
Kenita, I am just getting more and more admiring your accomplishments. And I'm just thinking like, okay, you didn't really know about nonprofits. Were you scared at any time? Like, describe the moments of that growing pain for 12 years.
Yeah. So back in 2009 was a rough time for me personally. I was married and my late husband was diagnosed with cancer. And this had been at the time his third reoccurrence. And I was starting a new nonprofit with him, but I did not work at this time. I needed to put all my focus in to what I was doing. I'm the type of person, I don't do anything halfway. When I went natural, I went and did the big chop because I can't do the transition from the curl to the straight. I just either I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. So in my mind, I felt like there was never a thought that I wouldn't do it. I just didn't know if I was doing it right. Because again, I didn't have the nonprofit experience. So I'm like, am I applying this correctly? Am I reaching out to the right community partners? Am I aligning myself with the right people? And I'm a woman of faith, so I believe in prayer. And prayer really got me through because I believe the Holy Spirit led me and guided me through the whole thing. And he led me to a mentor because I thought one day, you know what? I need to find somebody that's doing similar work, that's successful, that's been doing this for over 20 years. And there was an organization actually up the street called Rainbow Village. And I reached out to the CEO there several times. And then she finally accepted my call and she agreed to meet with me. And I sat with her and I'll never forget this meeting because it was so profound. I was telling her what I was doing, what my strategic plan was, where we were. And we were about 3 years old at this point. And I was at the point of thinking, either we're going to make it or we're not. Because I just didn't see any other way. It was like a fork in the road. And she looked at me and she looked me dead in my eye. I'll never forget it. And this was an older white lady, never met her before in my life. And she said, Kenita, you are further along with H.O.P.E at 3 years old than I was with Rainbow Village at 3 years old. And she had just completed a $3 million campaign. So she had just built a whole campus of homes on their campus, a community center, very well known and respected in the community. And here she was telling me that I'm further than she was at 3 years old. And she already had the setup. I mean, she was hired into the organization. She didn't set it up from the ground up like I did. And that fueled me. She agreed to mentor me every year. So every year I would go into her office and give her my plan and tell her my strategy and talk to her about who I was reaching out to. And she would write little letters of credibility for me to foundations that gave her money to say, hey, if you're looking for a new organization, a new mission to help that's on the rise and doing great things, support H.O.P.E Inc., support Kenita. I vouch for her. You're welcome to come to our office. She shared her office space with us, and we still go there now for meetings. And I think that was the pivotal point. But it was a lot of uncertainty about what I did know. And I learned through talking with a lot of people that were in the industry that I actually knew a lot more than I thought just from thinking critically and thinking as a business person. And the way I approached it helped it to become more successful. But I did find out quite ironic that in the nonprofit sector is very competitive. So you think if we're all here to help each other, then we'll be willing to help each other. But that's not the case. There's money out there for you, but people are competing for the same dollars. So sometimes executives want to help you and sometimes they don't. And I found that out the hard way from trying to grab some of these best practices from people, and mentors and things like that. And so I just kind of stuck with who I ended up connecting with, and just grew. And now people come to me for the mentorship or the connection, and I have the ability to give back to them and not necessarily turn them away like I was turned away when I was trying to figure it out.
You're not going to be stingy with your blessing.
Right. I'm going to help you up.
I'm going to help you. Yeah. I mean, when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, she got Rainbow Village and they was willing to give the, the nuggets. And you was like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. That's like straight competition. But I'm glad you went through that. And I like how you described it, because for those who are out there who are trying to pursue like a business or a project, what I take away is, if you have it in your gut to do it, just go ahead and do it. Don't worry about how necessarily to do it. Just do it. But also you have that a moment where you were humble enough to say, you know what, I need someone else to guide me, and I love that you use prayer and to help you along the way. So I'm inspired to share with, like, hey guys, this is a framework, an approach that you can take for any endeavors that you are thinking about.
Yeah. And you talked about, going through this experience where you had to help, what are some of the impactful lessons that you learned throughout that process, or even now as you're going through?
The first thing I learned very early on is that best practices for everyone else may not necessarily be your best practice. So definitely look at everyone's best practices, but it's going to come a time where you're going to have to look at your small organization or your startup business and say, what's going to work for me? And I had to come into a very humble experience with that, because I was shelling out money for grant writers and people and strategists and people that I thought, oh, well, these are well respected in the community. I need to give them money to help me. What they did was leave me out of money and still in the same place. But what I found out was I came across one lady that was a grant writer who I wanted to hire. And she was an African-American woman, and she looked at some of my writing. And she said, Kenita, you got to get grant ready first. She said, but you can write. So how about you take my focus group for free? And I'll show you how to write grants. And I took her focus group and I wrote our first grant template, and we got $15,000. And every time I write a grant, we get money. So now, fast forward 12 years later, we've gotten over $220,000 in grants that I've written.
Wow.
But whenever I paid someone to write a grant for us, we never got money. So is it the passion? Is it because I knew kind of how to work? I don't know. But because she took the time to teach me how to write, and to this day, she used me as a success story for her students, because I got my first grant at 2.5 years. Most foundations won't fund you until you're at least 3 years old, and they find you a risk even then. But I got our first grant at 2.5.
Wow.
But everyone will tell you, oh, you need this grant writer, or oh, you need that. You need to get grant ready, then start applying for grants and building relationships. And that'll help you get the money. But these are things that I didn't learn from doing my best practice research. So like I said, find out what works for you, and then you apply that to your business plan and you do that. The other thing I learned is that you don't have to partner with everybody to be credible or successful. So at first you'll start out and everyone will want to partner with you, and you want to partner with everyone. Oh, let's partner here. We can help with your services. But what you find is that you only have a handful of true, real mutual partnerships where you benefit and they benefit. The rest is just, by name. Nothing going back and forth, no services being exchanged, no collaborations on grant funding or anything like that. And it's a lot of that in the nonprofit world. So I would say, don't be eager to just accept every community partnership that comes your way when you're starting out. Just because you're small doesn't mean you need it. Make sure you find services that match and are like-minded, that you can basically partner so you don't have to replicate, right? But you still get some credit for that, service, and it takes your organization further. But you really have to strategize with this whole thing. And then lastly, I will say, which leads me to my last point. You have to have a plan. So if you go in here and like, I'm going to start a nonprofit because this is what I love to do and I'm passionate, and you think I'm going to get grants and people are going to give me money. A lot of people feel like as soon as they get the 501c3, I'm going to get a grant. And that's not true. You still, like I said, you have an incubation period of at least 3 years with foundations. But even at 3 years, they find you risky. So they want to see, how are you funding your mission without any grants, without us funding you. If you haven't figured out how you're going to reach out to the community, what fundraising plan you're going to have, the growth that you need for your organization as well as for your program in the community, then you don't have anything to offer them. You have nothing to put in your proposal. You have nothing to put in a business plan to corporations. You don't have anything to offer. So I feel like you have to plan. And I almost feel like people need to do a strategy plan before they even consider doing the paperwork for a 501c3, because you have to know strengths, weaknesses, competition. If there's other organizations doing what you're doing, what's going to differentiate you? You should just link up with that organization, become a board member or a volunteer, and still get the same outcome for yourself personally if you're not going to offer anything different, because you're going to be competing in the same market. So these are just things I've learned over time, but those are the 3 critical things I feel like I still put into practice today. What may work for the next organization may not work for me. I have to know what my organization needs, what it is, and then I have to apply those practices that fit us and make it work, if I need to tweak it here or there, but make it work for us.
Yeah, when that best practice thing made me think of when we do our financial coaching, there's for personal finance, and what we tell people is personal. So we're giving you suggestions on what helped us, but you need to take that knowledge and mold it into what fits you and what's best for you, because there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. There's a lot of ways to manage your finances. One are obviously not good. Some are obviously not good, but some are really good, but may not fit your lifestyle. And it's important to know that in life, there's not always there's certain things that are just principle based, right? But principles, but what's the word? Practicality is shaped into what you have been going on in your life. So from a budget standpoint, hey, figure out what best fits you. You like working spreadsheets, or do you like an app, or do you
like to write it on paper?
Write it on paper. Do you want to, focus on it every single day or once a month or whatever? All those kinds of things. Kind of like you, it's like, I got this information from so-and-so, they're world renowned, but that right there, part B, that don't fit with me. So let me just, let me shave that off.
But it's important also, to your point, to have a plan. Like, you have a plan for that, a personalized plan.
Well, yeah. And then if you don't have a plan, you can't identify what you need to shave off to fit your process.
Because even with the budgeting, we had to alter that plan. Initially, people will say, hey, bring your participant to a building every week. I knew right away that's not going to work for single parents because they don't have time. The point is, we don't have time already, but we need this help. So I didn't want to add stress. So I thought, well, we'll just do something virtual once a month with a financial advisor. We had a financial advisor for about 7 years, giving financial advice to our participants, and sometimes they do one-on-one. But we quickly realized that we're kind of recycling the same information with each new group, and we're not sure, we're seeing the growth, but we're not sure how impactful it is with it just being a group presentation. And we thought, and we said, you know what, we really need to make this a one-on-one budget training, budget coaching experience where they talk about their individual goals, and they're basically tracked and managed through that process individually. And that's when we'll see the financial impact, even more so than what we're seeing, because we were meeting our goal, but we didn't feel like they were really getting what they needed from that. And at the time, we were like, well, how are we going to afford that? A budget coach for all of these, for 10 to 12, 15 people. And so we started looking around, and we said, well, you know what, we could do our own budget curriculum. Just reach out to someone and ask, hey, let's do a budget curriculum and see if they'll help us with it. And I think that's how we kind of stumbled upon you guys about a budget curriculum. And then we thought, well, you know what? They are pretty much wanting to offer the same thing we really want to do. So why don't we just talk about them doing the budget coaching for our program? And it's been successful ever since.
Wow. I remember that. I remember that shift in the conversation. You were like, why don't you just, you know what, Jason, just can y'all do one-on-ones? I was like, yeah, that's what we do. I remember that. You really things will recall. That's a good.
Yeah. Okay. So you spoke about you being someone else's success story. Give us an example of someone who, pretty much was you in this situation, but they're now successful because of what you and your organization has imparted in them or provided for them.
So we have so many success stories, which is a good problem to have. One that comes to mind just recently. So one of our participants from when we first started, I would say maybe she came in about 2012, 2013. And she was young. She was like in her 20s. She had a son, just one child. She was going to school. And at this point, we were still accepting applications from other places. So we had her come from Savannah, actually. We were helping her. The only one that I helped in Savannah. And I remember this because it was so profound. She was so concerned about being a failure for our program because she was struggling so much. And at the time, we still didn't have the operating budget that we have now. So we didn't give $400 every time, to every participant. And so she was getting what we could afford, around $250 or so a month. And it was helping her. But she struggled academically still because she had a lot of stressors in her life. So we were trying to kind of maneuver through those. And I remember we were having a peer mentor call. And at the time, I didn't have a program director, so I was it. So they had their peer mentor calls with me. And she said, I just want to be a success story for you. And I don't think I'm going to be successful. And I remember telling her, I said, you watch, you're going to be the most successful participant we have. And she was like, you really think so? I said, yeah, just watch. I was like, we're just going to work through this. You're going to graduate. You're going to be the most successful participant we have. So fast forward to now, she is a teacher. I think she's gotten her master's degree now. She's married. She has a home and she gives back to the organization. Her income grew, doubled, tripled. And she spoke at a lot of our new program holiday dinners. And told her story. And she talked about how, I thought I wasn't going to be successful, but, now I have my graduate degree and she's just doing great. I just actually spoke to her last week. So I feel like for me, that's one of the most successful ones because she doubted herself. And I just knew if you stick with me, I'm not going to let you fall. So you gotta be better.
Right.
But I was hoping that she wouldn't prove me wrong.
So you was giving her encouragement, but behind your back you had your fingers crossed.
Yeah, I was like, Lord, okay.
Oh, well, I'm stepping out on faith on this one. You're gonna be all right.
But she did it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, so speaking of that, let's get into some of the numbers as this wallet talks. Let's talk about their wallets a little bit. Tell us, what is the average savings amount by the time they graduate? Because, tell the people what their average is when they start and then when it ends.
So usually when people start a program, they don't have savings. If they have a saving, it's like $200 or less most of the time. When they come out of our program, on average, they have about $1,500 saved because of what they go through in the trainings with you all. Or what they've learned, they just learn to put up a lot of the lump sum money that they may receive throughout the program. When we track them, we've learned that the average, as of our last survey, has been $1,800 in their accounts. And many of them have higher accounts at $4,500, almost working towards their 3-month goal, expense goal. And these were people that didn't have any savings or even a savings account before they came in. And now they have $6,000 and $8,000 in their savings account. So once you look at it, it's been a very big success story for us in terms of what they've been able to do financially with their money.
That's awesome. And what would you say is like the average income of a participant coming in versus when they graduate and now have their first job?
Coming in, most of them are under $20,000. And it's like, how do you live off of $20,000?
Mm-hmm.
Many of them are under $20,000 because of the reduced hours they have to work. Mm-hmm. When they graduate, our average growth has been a $25,000 increase in their income. So they're making about $50,000 or more. But we see more of a percentage, actually over 31% on the higher outlier, 60,000 plus.
Wow.
So their income has changed dramatically just from an education. Mm-hmm. We've only seen a small number range between 30,000 and 40. And it's usually if they're in a particular career field that is hard to get momentum in. You know, like if you're in marketing, you have to kind of build yourself up in corporate America and things like that. But it's still not $15,000 and $18,000. It's still $30,000 and $40,000 where you can kind of grow and build off of it. And they seem to be doing well with that. But on average, they're having a $25,000 increase in their income.
That's awesome.
No, I like that. Because we seen them. We seen those zero savings and under 20K, and I can just imagine someone coming to you and asking for help and feeling hopeless, like for real, like I can't do this. I don't know. And so have you ever had this thought to come to your mind, honey child, you ain't got enough money, you got all these, you got these kids, and why are you trying to get an education? Why don't you just get another job and just provide for your kids? Has that ever came across your mind?
Or have you heard that type of response from people?
Yeah, a lot of organizations that help single parents, especially homeless single parents, transition into homes and housing, that's their motto. They don't even want to talk to you about school because you don't have a home. You may not be working. I've never had that motto because I just knew from my personal experience that, and I've known this before kids, I just knew I have to get an education if I want to make a certain amount of money or if I want to excel and empower myself economically. I just knew that. So it didn't change anything when I got pregnant. I just knew, okay, I really have to do it. So when the students come to me, they feel a relief because I'm not looking at the outliers, because your outliers are circumstantial and they're subjective. It's not objective, because once your credentials change, your ability to self-sell and grow change. And so your outliers change. I just need to get you from A to B so that that can happen. Yeah. And that was how I looked at it. And like you said, they come to us pretty hopeless most of the time. I'm used to tears in every interview that I do. And it's I feel almost unconnected because I'm so used to seeing people cry that I'm kind of just together and not emotionally, reacting to them. And I'm like, oh, it touches me, but I'm used to them being, relieved and just crying and saying, oh, this is going to help so much, because I know it's going to help them so much because I can understand where they are, and I wish I had hope when I was going to school. I could have been in a safer environment, but I was dealing with gunshots and bullets outside every day just to be able to have my children with me. So I completely understand where they are. And also, as I have grown over the years and grown away from being a single parent, things have changed how schools do things and how, companies may do things. So there's some things they experience that I have to learn about as I'm growing the program too, and incorporate those things. So yeah, it's definitely been hard for them, but I've never had the thought that education, why are you thinking about education? Because that second job is going to put more stress on the family, more stress on you. Yeah. You'll have less time and you're still not going to make enough. Yeah. Because something's going to have to give. Yeah. And so I've always known that education, to me, education is the way out. I do know there are, trade schools and certificates and things that you can get and make good money. Like with IT tech, you can get a certificate. You don't have to have a bachelor's degree and make $70,000+ plus. So I'm not saying that trade school and diplomas, certificates don't have their place. But it was just my belief that, single parents that want to achieve a college degree, associate's or bachelor's degree, this is what they face. And that's the demographic I want to help.
Yeah. As you're helping them, I'm thinking through it like, okay, so can anyone just become a participant in Hope, or do you have like a criteria, a regimen, what you're looking for, and how do you get those people? Like, how do you get that lead on a person?
We definitely have criteria, so it can't just be any single parent, because there are programs that help any single parent. But I'm looking for a demographic that is not always helped because they're considered working poor. So the credential is that you have to be, number one, a U.S. citizen, have to be, number two, enrolled in an accredited college, either getting an associate or a bachelor's degree. So if you come to me saying I'm getting a certificate in medical assisting, that's great, but I'm not going to accept you into my program because that's not what I'm looking for. Gotcha. If you're getting associates in medical assisting, we can talk. But I'm looking for a college degree student, and they have to be enrolled full-time, because part-time you can work full-time. And you'll be in school for another 6 or 15 years. And that's not the goal that I'm trying to accomplish. I want you to get done in 6 years. I want you to be full-time, and I'm supplementing income so that you can have the time you need to do that. They also have to work. So you can't come to me and not have a job. I don't care if it's PRN, part-time or full-time, but you have to have some income coming in, because we supplement income. We don't pay all the bills. And that just sets our program up for failure if they don't work. So they have to be working. They have to have a 2.7 GPA or higher. And reason being is that if I know you have a 2.7 GPA and you're struggling, can't pay your bills, but your grades are still good, that tells me your determination and how successful you can be with just a little bit of help. So we look at that. And of course, the dependents have to be living with the parents. So they can't be living with grandma, but I'm a single mom, but I want you to pay my bills and I don't even have my kids. We don't do that.
Yeah.
Gotta be living at home with the parent. And they don't necessarily just have to be a single mother. Nowadays, single fathers have custody of their children too. And they don't necessarily know what's out there for them. And so we really encourage single fathers to apply for our program, because we want to help them, especially we definitely want men to finish and complete college degrees. And be an example to their children. So we have that going for us too, as something that is differentiating us in the community.
I love it. I was thinking like there has to be a certain mindset that you're looking for, and you called it out. If they can still get decent grades under all those stressors, if you just remove just a little bit of pressure, they'll probably excel even further. So I love that. I love that you're and it's also like you know what your niche is, in the sense that, hey, I know you got to have these ingredients inside you, and I can't help you unless you want to be helped yourself. Right? I just can't keep pouring into you and there's nothing, and you're just a hole in the bottom of you and you're not getting there. So I appreciate that you have that framework. And some people will be like, well, you're a nonprofit, you're just supposed to help everyone or something like that. It's like, no, well, I want to be a good steward of the funds that you're getting, and this is how I can do that.
Right. And there's enough of us, we're concentrated in Atlanta with many nonprofits, so it's enough of us to help everybody if we wanted to. But I really took a replicate of myself. When I thought of the criteria, I thought about what was I like as a single parent. My grades were good. I worked. I had drive, determination. My kids lived with me. I had the ability to let my kids live with my mom. She asked me if I needed her to do that, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted my kids with me. So I had my kids with me. And so I just kind of wrote down, what was I like as a single parent during this time, in this snapshot? And is it realistic to expect other people to be like that? And then I thought about, well, the CAPS assistants, they're not helping associates and bachelor degree students, especially if they work over a certain amount of hours. Why not go after those people? Because a lot of the single parents I knew, they were like me. We're in school, they're trying not to drop out. We're trying to figure out how we all gonna pay our rent, all the same things. So I really just took a replica of myself And I made that the criteria.
That's awesome. So what advice would you give to someone who was like you, or who are like your participants, or maybe were at some point at, like the participants, where, they're a single parent, they want to pursue education, but they just don't feel like they can do it. Like the odds are stacked against them. The doors have been slammed in their face. Yeah, what would you advise?
I'll
advice.
tell all, I'll tell all my single parents and people that I've talked to, friends that, didn't decide to go to school right out of high school because of this type of situation. You can do whatever you put your mind to doing. Mm-hmm. The obstacle is there, but that doesn't stop anything. Pregnancy doesn't make you debilitated. You just have to figure out the plan on how to do it. Most of us as single parents, we didn't know what kind of mothers we were going to be. We hoped we would be good mothers. We didn't know how we were going to finance that baby. We just know we're going to have our baby and we're going to work and it's going to work out. The baby will eat. And all the single mothers that I know, their kids are healthy, strong, thriving, going to school, going to college. So we did something right, but we didn't know how we were going to do it. So I tell people, don't let the obstacles stop you, because there's obstacles in everything. Whether you decide to go to school or not, it's going to be obstacles on the job. It's going to be obstacles in parenting. Life is going to throw you curveballs. It's about how you deal with those curveballs, and don't let education or lack of education because of the curveballs be the excuse. Because really what you're doing is making it harder for yourself in the long run. Short term, you may be able to pick up 80 hours. You may be able to work 2 or 3 jobs. But I'm talking about over time. You're going to need that credential. You're going to need that experience to help you get to where you want to go. So don't let being a single parent and statistics, that's what I was looking for. I always said I'm not going to be a statistic. So statistics say if I have a child, that my child will struggle with academically and probably with math because I have a single parent household and I'll probably be poor and there'll be a lack of generational wealth in my family. Statistics say that. Statistics may be right in terms of what they are researching and what they see, but that doesn't have to be my income. All of my children excel in math and science. They're all going to college or in college right now or have graduated from college. Wow. I didn't suffer to the point to where my children didn't have. When we were living in the projects, they didn't know where they were, but they had everything they needed, and so all the statistics do is show you what could be. It doesn't show you what has to be. So I tell the parents, don't become a statistic. You're a single parent. That doesn't mean you can't go to college and finish. It doesn't mean that you can't finish on time. It doesn't mean that you can't be financially stable and have a future for you and your children. Don't be that statistic. I never have become a statistic. And I guess maybe that has driven me with even the nonprofit. Most nonprofits fail in 3 years. I'm not going to fail in 3 years because I'm not going to be a statistic. I'm going to figure this thing out and we'll get through these 3 years. And that's just kind of how I think. So I think they have to have that same mindset. And even if they weren't born with it and it's not natural, it could be developed when people pour into you and continue to be that support system for you. It can be developed. And I think that's what we do with our peer mentoring calls and things like that with Hope. We pour into them and we give them the confidence. Even if they lack it, we give them the confidence that they can do this and the example.
Yeah, one point I want to pin in and talk a little bit more. You said that to become a statistics, because statistics saying, what could happen. And I want to add in there, also statistics are just are showing you the results of what did happen. That doesn't mean that's what's going to happen to you,
right?
Because there's a secret ingredient that can determine whether you're going to be a statistic that replicates what did happen. Is that your own, like you said, your own mindset and your own determination. And we have a saying here on the podcast, change your mind, change your wallet, change your life. Right. So just because it happened to that other person doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. Depends on how you approach it. Yeah. So like I said, I'm inspired. I'm just admiring you even more and more through this conversation. other people who are feeling the same way I'm feeling, how can they connect with Hope?
So the best way to connect with Hope is through the website, of course. Our website is H.O.P.E as in Paul, B as in boy, E as in elephant.org, helping other people be empowered. You go there, you can connect with us, look at our success stories. If you want to apply, you can apply online. We only accept applications online. You can inquire about things. The FAQ is there to answer some questions for people that want assistance. If they want to donate, same thing, they can go to the website. But we are also very social media savvy. So you can find us on Instagram at Hope Inc. 1, or you can find us on Facebook at Helping Other People Be Empowered. And we're on LinkedIn too, helping other people.
Yes, you are.
So you can find us on one of those 3 things. But if you go to the website, we have the little circles or icons, they call them, at the top that'll lead you to our social media as well. But that's pretty much the best way to find us. You search Google. I had one participant say he was looking for help and he got hope. And I thought that was
I like that.
Put in help and Hope came up. So you'll find us on Google probably faster than you'll find us anywhere else.
I like that.
Awesome. And with, Hope thriving and, in the nonprofit space, you spoke about not being a statistic, the organization and your participants. Like, what would you like listeners to know about Hope in its future, and how you're not going to be a statistic that, where it shows that, you're not successful?
Yeah. Where are you going to be in 10 years?
So we already have our 5-year plan, as you know, drafted. And we're already ahead of schedule. Originally, I wanted to grow by 25% in our program year over year. So we have done that with having 25 participants within the program right now. So then I said, well, within 3 years, I would like to work on a pilot expansion and take Hope into another state. Because when I started Hope, the vision was always to take it nationwide. It was never just to be an Atlanta organization. I knew that we could take this and replicate it somewhere else, because being a single parent and going through these hardships is a systemic thing. It's not anything that's just localized in Atlanta. So if we do a lot of virtual components, why can't we take it somewhere else? Why would we need a physical building to expand? And so at first I thought it was something long way off. Then I started looking at the growth, and we started doubling in our revenue last 3 years. I'm like, you know what? We can pilot this somewhere. So let's start researching. And at first, my board and my team are looking at me kind of crazy, like, what? I'm like, listen, the cost is not going to change, whether we're in Atlanta or California, in terms of what we offer. We offer $400 a month. So it doesn't change for us. So what will hold us back? So now we've researched top 10 cities with single parents in need, and have the college students, universities to support it. And we came up with a new place. So we are piloting in another state, and we're getting ready to announce it soon. But we got our approval from the college, and they are eager to start. And we're starting actually this fall, accepting those 5. We want to start with 5 students, just see how it works, what kinks we need to work out. So we're expanding the organization. So in 5 years, I'll see us still expanding. And I want to do it slow, just like we did Hope. Start with a certain number, see how it works, continue to grow it, build a successful track record. Then let's go to another state. Then let's go to another state. I just want to expand it that way. And after Hope has gotten everywhere in the United States, then I can see what else, I want to do. But right now, I just want to take it from Atlanta to other areas where single parents need us and make a difference everywhere.
Wow. So we're going to duplicate Hope. We're going to duplicate, it sounds like people can duplicate your efforts too. I know you recently started a business. Could you tell us a little bit about that as well, and how they can connect with you if they want to learn more from you?
Wait. Kenita, you got time for another business?
So this is the thing. So I hadn't really started another business. What ended up happening was, when people found out that I did my nonprofit paperwork, everybody wanted me to do their nonprofit paperwork. Oh, I want to start a nonprofit. Can you do mine? So I started helping people here and there, friends and family that were starting nonprofits. And it kind of became something. Over the years, I've helped about 40 organizations start, get their 501c3, 100% success rate, and help them, figure out how to run their organization. And I actually started turning people away because, like you said, I don't have time. I have a thriving organization. But people don't take no for an answer. So then I started saying,
like you did it.
Okay, how can I do this? So I said, okay, you know what? At first, it took me a while to realize that people want to hear what I have to say because I'm still thinking I'm in the learning process. But now as I'm having conversations, people, oh, you should put this in an e-course, or you should charge more for these consultations because this is rich, this and that. So anyway, I did 2 ebooks, one called How I Started My Nonprofit from the Ground Up, and the other, Are You Grant Ready? Because these are the questions I kept getting. And I said, you know what? I'm having a baby, which was my 2-year-old now. I'm going to put these ebooks out and give them to people, and they'll be satisfied, and I can just keep doing what I'm doing. They went out, people bought those, and now they're like, oh, can you talk to us about getting grant ready? Can you talk to us about doing grants? Can you talk to us about fundraising? And one of my consultants actually asked me if I would become a coach on her team to help coach some of her new startups. And as I'm like, okay, as I'm building that and I'm taking some of the calls, she's getting all this feedback, and people are like, you need to send all these 5 clients to her, and this is what you needed here. And so they're getting a lot of feedback about the coaching, and I'm still sitting here thinking people want to hear what I have to say. Like
imposter
what?
syndrome.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome,
they want to hear what I have to say. So I said, okay, well, you know what? I'm just going to duplicate this whole process. I'll have my ebooks. I'll have e-courses on the ebooks, so I can provide that. And then I'll do some consulting on the side for those that are starting up and they're serious about it. I'll consult on the side. So it's kind of been always in the background. I've just not really promoted it. I've only done by referral basis. Okay. But now, since it's getting out to more people, I'll do a little bit more promoting and things of that nature. So it's called Starting My Nonprofit. The website is startingmynonprofit.com. So if you want to start a new nonprofit, if you just want information about it, if you want to get the filing done for the 1023, or if you want to find out about getting grant ready, you can go there, you can book a consultation, fill out the form, and we'll talk about, the process. I do not write grants for other people, though. That is one thing I will not do. I can do it, and I've had one organization that I've written for. I've written for them until the end of this year. Then I'm like, listen, I'm having another baby, can't do it. But that's the only thing I won't do right now because it's too time consuming, and I write so many grants for Hope, and lots of times people aren't ready. So I want to focus on getting you ready, and then possibly later on down the line, we can have a conversation about grant writing and things like that. But I will not, I refuse, I don't care how much money they offer me, I refuse to write grants for people because it's that tedious, especially when you don't have it together. So I just focus on the foundation for right now and then, move forward. But it's really just become a side hustle, but not necessarily one I was trying to do. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
But it's helped a lot of people.
I just thank you for your willing to pour out and back into the community. I mean, it's definitely got return right now. You're seeing the benefits of it, but it's also going to be internal. So I really appreciate you for doing that, and even continue to pour yourself out to these other side businesses. And I think I'm gonna get a little spiritual. I think that's what God says about, living life abundantly, where your life is overflowing and everything that comes out of you is a blessing. It's every seed that you sow bears, really great fruit. So thank you for being the example.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I definitely agree. And actually, it was the Holy Spirit that kind of led me that way because I was, not trying to hear it. And someone in ministry came up to me and we ministered together. And she was like, Holy Spirit is showing me that he's going to give you 2 other streams of income and you need to pursue it. And I was like, what? And she was like, you're going to be doing more digital things, and God is in it. So pursue it. You know, you're turning it down, but God is in it. And I said, okay. And I was having my own kind of revelations, but I was kind of like rebuking the Lord, you know?
Yeah. No, that's too much.
Like, no.
You said abundant. I don't want abundant.
You said you wouldn't put more on me than I could bear.
Right. So it kind of, as soon as, you know, that confirmation came, it seemed like more and more doors started opening around that area. So I knew enough to know, you know, let me go with God, because last time I did, well, actually, I'll just say this tidbit. When I first heard about starting this organization, the Holy Spirit told me not to return to my job. I was on leave. And he said, don't return to your job. It's time for you to start the ministry. And I said, no, Lord, because, you know, my husband had just got to working. He had been out of work for 18 months. And I told you he had cancer and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, trying to tell my husband that I'm not supposed to go back to work, that's not gonna work, right? And so he said, well, you know, I know you're supposed to do this, but let's just make an exit plan for 6 months. But you go back to work, make an exit plan. We talked to our pastor, but the Holy Spirit was not telling me that. He was telling me very verbatim not to go back. I went back to work on a Monday. They had merged while I was gone. I got fired on a Friday. I have never been fired a day in my life. And it was like a whole conspiracy around it too.
Wow.
So it was a lot of betrayal and hurt for me. And I was like, God, why did you let this happen? And he said, I told you not to go back to work. And so I started the organization. And I'll tell you, every time I got a job offer, one time I went to an interview, they paid me double what I was making at the other job. And I had accepted. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going back to work. And I'll just do Hope on the side. When I showed up for work, the doors were closed. They had closed. So every door that opened for me, God let the doors close. Like, listen, you're going to do Hope or we're not doing nothing. So I had to figure it out. And I didn't pay myself from Hope for 3 years. So I had to figure out, how was I going to have some income? And the income was helping other people start their 501c3s. And I ended up making enough doing that to cover the bills. But yeah, so I learned the hard way to listen to God.
Yeah. And he physically closed the doors in front of you.
Yeah.
What you mean? I can't go.
Yeah. It was very evident that I was not supposed to do anything else but hope.
It was almost like that, like Jonah thing, like you're trying to avoid preaching. Like, no, I'm not going. Like, okay, I'm gonna swallow you up and put you where you're supposed to be. I'm curious to understand how people wrestle with the Holy Spirit. So when you said that you went, you described it as you went to a council, talked to your pastor, and you still felt like, okay, we're gonna exit plan, but we can still do this way. What was the time period between that? Like, was it like you was mulling over this for like 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days? What was it?
It was very quick because for me, I was supposed to return back to work so it was like 2 weeks before I was supposed to go back to work that I was having this conversation with my husband. I had heard very clearly not to go back. Very clearly not to go back. It was very clear to me. So as we're having these conversations over the 2-week period, I'm still hearing, no, that's not what I'm asking you to do. No, that's not what I'm asking you to do. And I said, okay, well, you know, the Bible tells me to listen to my husband too, though. So I'm like, you know, maybe he'll tell him, and it'll work out, and I won't be being disobedient.
That's a good one.
But so that whole thing was immediate. That situation was very immediate for me. Now, there's been other times where, you know, it's been a struggle, you know, having these kids. I remarried, my late husband passed away, you know, with bladder cancer, and my current husband didn't have any children. I was of the mindset that I was done. So when I tried to do some permanent actions to keep myself from being pregnant, the Holy Spirit told me 3 times, no. 3 times, no, don't do it. And I said, why? He said, because it's still fruit in your womb. And I was like, I'm not having no more kids. You know, my late husband's gone. I'm not having no kids. So now my current husband, he doesn't have children. And I realized right away why the Lord spared me and allowed me to still be fruitful. And as soon as we married, we've had these 2 children. I have a wonderful 2-year-old who I can't see my life without now. And then we have the one on the way now. But I was done, all them years ago, and I was trying to do some permanent stuff. And the Lord was like, no. And I fought him and fought him and fought him. And I kept fighting him even through when I was dating my current husband. I fought him, and the Holy Spirit kept saying, no, this is your husband, and you're going to have more children. And I was like, no, I'm not.
That is not part of the plan.
I'm not doing it, So I've definitely learned to just shut up and keep it moving when it comes to what God has for you to do, because it's ultimately it's for your good and it's better than what I could imagine. And I thought I would be crazy starting over with new children, but I am ecstatic about my little 2-year-old. That's like my best buddy. Aww. And so I'm looking forward to the new baby. And I mean, I just like, I could have missed this. Thinking of my own self, I could have missed this. So I would have missed out greatly. So I'm very happy that, I wrestled with the Holy Spirit and he won.
Yeah.
As you always say.
Yeah.
I guess you gotta listen.
Yeah. I hope people are out here listening to this and using an example, because when you said that, I was like, oh, yeah, there's some things I think I've heard that, and you just gonna close the door. And it's like when you said, Lord, I'm going through all this pain and anguish, and they fired me, they betrayed me. It's like, well, that's why I told you not to go, because I was protecting you. We thought it was denial, but it was protection. That's all I was trying to get at. So, wow. Well, thank you so much again for coming on the show. We'd love to have you back again anytime if you want to have any new initiatives.
I enjoyed it. It's been great conversation.
Yes. How you want to close out, Tiff? Just close it out. All right. Well, this is what we do. We just banter back and forth. Anyway, so family, you heard it here. Kenita Smith, an amazing story, overcoming, just building an organization from the ground up and inspiring other people, and even now pouring into other people, not just with her program, but with her offside hustles and things like that, and even to her family. So it's not impossible to have a dream and have it manifest itself. You just have to have the right mindset. And like we say on this podcast, if you change your mind, you change your wallet, you change your life. So don't be scared. Take the leap. So this is Jason and Tiffany with Waller Talks, signing out. Peace.